co-stars of Hannibal with us, and I can't wait to get started. So, Hannibals, are you ready to get started? All right, well then put your hands together for Mikkelsen and Hugh Dancy. Standing ovation. That's amazing. I mean, talking about the fans, we're 10, 11 years into when Hannibal first debuted. Do you still expect this? The cheering, the shouting?
Think about it a lot. No, it's a surreal thing. I mean, we see it when we go to Comic Cons or occasionally at a premiere, see all the little flower crowns. We still know what it's all about. Somebody has to tell us how it started, but we embrace it, we love it.
So looking back at when you first signed on to the project a decade ago, what did you expect when you signed on? Did you expect, I mean, it's a very unique...
Not this. That's the truth. I don't know what I expected. I signed on basically on the basis of sitting down with Brian Fuller and hearing him talk through the show. What he envisaged for the show, and Mansell, once Brian starts telling you what his plans are, you're right. He keeps going, and it's very compelling, and that was it for me. But this, no. Yeah. Thank you.
What happened in those first meetings when he was telling you what he envisioned for the show?
He described for me like 3 seasons of the show, which bore no relation to the show he actually made eventually. It would have been an amazing show. But I don't know, I got a sense of who he was and his vision.
Yeah, and I had the same kind of being. I was supposed to be there for 15 minutes, and he went on for 3 hours. And I think it was in season 8 or something. And I was completely lost, but his energy was insane. I've met a few very extreme, radical people in this business, but nothing like that. It was just, his dream and his vision was very hard to understand, but it was very compelling. Yeah, thanks.
I think one of the things that really stands out to fans about the show is that it's so unique in its style and its tone and the dialogue. How did you develop your characters and your performances with that specific style in mind?
Well, we had obviously the books to go to start with. For me anyway, Red Dragon. I mean, it was all there. And then beyond that, yeah, coming to terms with Brian's really specific type of writing and frankly just learning it. Because it's hyper real, right? It's not naturalistic, and I say that in the best possible way. So finding the rhythms of that and just sitting opposite Mads and getting to the rhythms of that writing.
Yeah, but then there was also stuff that we were not aware of. And after the first couple of episodes, I think we had a better idea of where he was going with the visuals, which is a very big part of the show. Obviously, the way it's graphic and the way it's not graphic, that's fine balance was something that we had no idea where it was going to land. But we saw that after a few episodes, and I think that was really nice to lean into, because then we were also allowed to go a little further, because, as you say, it's lifted.
How did you adjust your performance as you started to get more familiar with the show and the vision?
I don't know, I mean, it's obviously based on Will Graham's development from one thing to another, and me being his teacher, somehow. And you know, normally when you have a character, you want it to be very true to the character. You will often hear yourself saying, well, my character wouldn't do that, my character wouldn't do that. But that was not the case with Hannibal, because he could do anything. As long as it was benefiting him in the end, he could do whatever. So I rarely had those complaints. I just went like, okay, Brian, a horse, a dog, I'm naked. Okay, it makes sense. So that's basically, I was just waiting for whatever Brian came up with, and he did surprise us once in a while.
I mean, he told me relatively early on, I'm thinking at the end of this season, it would be really great if you vomited up an ear. Do you have any thoughts about whose ear it should be? No, I'll leave that with you. But being given that as a place to get to, because like Matt says, I was the opposite, going through a really extreme change. That gave, because obviously, particularly at the beginning of the show, there was the murder of the week, there's the guy with the toadstools growing out of his head, etc., etc. But underneath all of that, there was this thing between Will and Hannibal, and just generally having encephalitis, which I kind of got to understand more as we went on.
I really love that ear story. Are there any other stories that come to mind from, like, favorite stories of when you worked on set?
There are tons of them. The problem with favorite stories is that you can't remember them. But when you're in the midst of it, it's funny and crazy. But when you get the question, you can't remember. The second we wrap up, you remember them.
I don't know about funny stories. I do remember the first day working with Scott Thompson, and I think Scott had this really charming quality of seeming to be bewildered that he was in the show. and I was like, oh, that's who this character's going to be. He's going to be, it's going to be Scott.
Yeah, I think it's on one of the blooper reels as well, but Scott, where he is one of the funny characters, obviously, for good reason. And then one of our directors just said, okay, let's do the straight version, the non-funny version. And Scott said, that was the one I just did. All right. So that was, he was fantastic to work with as well. Everybody was. We met so many fantastic actors throughout the show that kind of came and visited us. So it was a humbling experience. That's a great question.
We talked earlier about kind of the visual of the show. One of the main central things we keep returning to is the food, right? We've got some incredible food styling. Are there any dishes that you remember liking, seeing the most?
I didn't get to eat as much as Mads.
As many.
Got there eventually. Probably the most fun was the ortolan, right? The tiny bird, which she created so lovingly. The tiny bones inside were dried pasta thing, so it had the crunch that it apparently has.
Made out of marzipan.
Yes, I made out of marzipan. Marzipan and dried pasta.
I had a scene with Lawrence. Lawrence is a foodie. And they were serving us foie gras. Can't pronounce it. What do you say? Foie gras. It's French. Suck it up. So we just loved it so much that Lawrence deliberately fucked up his lines a few times. We had to reshoot it. So the food was really as good as it looked.
Sounds delicious. Matt, you did a lot of cooking. Do you feel like you improved as a chef?
No. I'm good at chopping things. I'm really good at chopping things and jumping stuff and catching it. But the end result is not worth mentioning, so that's why we have a real chef on the set. I'm not disappointing anyone now. I'm not a real
blood in the show, and yeah, you will get covered in a lot of blood. One of those days.
Strangest applause line. They would, I mean, it's really hard to get that blood off. It's much harder than real blood. Sorry, again, it wasn't real blood. Which you would know. Sure, yeah.
It's sticky.
There's multiple types of blood, right? There's the blood that the makeup department has, and there's the blood that the costume department has, and there's the blood that the special effects department has, and then they will argue about who has the better blood. And then, to my memory, you end up just with all of it. You know, less is not more in this case.
But they have one thing in common. It's sticky, and a lot of it has a certain amount of sugar or honey in it. So if you're one of those victims that is, you know, in the background on a hot summer day outdoor, you will be covered by bees. So that's a little downside to that. Yeah. But it is just a super sticky thing, and for a smoker like me, it's super annoying. Yeah.
It's a dangerous game. We talked about blood. There's also a lot of, you know, weird gore, climbing out of horses, all of these different things going on. Were you ever, I mean, we all got grossed out when we saw it in a good way, but were you ever grossed out on set? And spitting out of the ear?
No. Honestly, I love it. I mean, I was birthed from a stag. That was a good day of work, you know.
I mean, we tend to have fun with it, you know, between takes. Obviously, we had, what was his name, the doctor whose jaw I cut open, and thank you. So, but that was such gross. I mean, the prosthetic work they've done on that dummy, it was so gross. So obviously, we had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah.
But no, we know what it is. It's fake blood. And it's, sorry again, it's not real people. So it's not freaking us out. It's actually, it's pretty fun to be around. It's a TV show. It's not real. Thanks for having us.
As you mentioned in your press tour for another round, an incredible movie. You mentioned that you trained as a dancer, and this is a very physical role of Hannibal. Did that training come into your performance as Hannibal?
I don't know. I mean, I've had the question before. I mean, I don't know if I would have done anything differently as an actor if I hadn't been a dancer. Probably not, but I can't tell because that was the way it happened. Obviously, he's elegant in a certain way, and I have to be aware of it. He has to have a certain tempo that he can also change. So you have to have a bodily awareness in all characters, but specifically this man, he was very specific. Nothing was wasted. There was he was not having a nervous scratch or anything like that, which is quite human. We made him inhuman that way. So he was completely in control of all his movements.
Right, and we spent a lot of time just sitting in two chairs opposite each other. You have to be quite, I mean, just to be still, right? It's to be still, but doing something at the same time. I don't know if that relates to dancing exactly, but it's self-awareness of that.
Yeah.
Well, on that part, Hugh, your character is very human. Your foils, right? When you were sitting opposite each other and playing off of each other, were you in constant dialogue with this is what you're going to do? Okay, well then I'm going to try to do this to kind of counteract?
Not overtly. I mean, it was like, well, what are you going to do on the third line? Okay, well, I'll cross my leg. But I think there's a bit of, I mean, I'm sure we were doing that without speaking about it, bouncing off each other or mirroring each other or whatever. Yeah.
I think it was a constant cat and mouse game between them, and we were not always sure who was a cat and who was a mouse. I think we just found a rhythm in that. That obviously, as you say, he is more down the department of being human than I am, and he's also going through a lot of things, which Hannibal is not. So that would obviously rub off on what he does, but he would also sometimes be smartly in control of that in order to counter what I'm doing. Right? So it was back and forth.
I remember thinking at the time that one of the reasons it was so fun to work with Mads, because we both, I think, like to talk about what we're going to do to the same kind of degree, and then at the same point we wanted to not talk about it anymore and just do it, and a lot of it you're figuring out as you're doing it.
It makes sense to find people that way.
Or maybe it was just pity.
We mentioned the cat and mouse game. All of that kind of leads up to this grand finale where Hugh, your character lets go and kind of both.
Don't spoil it, I haven't seen it.
No one. But what was it like to let go with your character, and Mouse, what was it like for you to kind of? It's a big moment for both of you.
Are we talking about the finale?
Finale.
And then? It was great. I mean, my memory of that is, once again, being covered in blood. It's good to know we always go back to that for a solid. Fake. Sorry. Filming all night outside Toronto, somewhere in the countryside, that fight sequence. At some point discovering a bottle of wine in the house that we were filming in and thinking that would be a good idea. And it was. Fake wine. Fake news. But also behind that, like talking to Brian, you know, how are we going to, we didn't know that was necessarily going to be a finale, but we arrived between the two of us at a place that Will and Hannibal had not been at before, right? Acceptance, I guess. And trying to figure out how to do that in a simple way and not belabor it and just happens.
It's a giant journey, obviously, for both of them. In reality, that is a giant journey he's gone through. But in Hannibal's world as well, even though the step is much smaller for him, it's a gigantic leap, right?
Right, because he's potentially envisioning
a future. But it's interesting because Hannibal had never ever thought about the future. He's a man who lives in the present. And for once, he saw a future, yeah. But he's not the horrible future. You want to know what? You all just take for granted that he's part of that future? Oh, yes, of course. Well, we know what happens, but we can't tell you because we're still crossing our fingers a couple more years, right?
You mentioned earlier turning to the books. When you guys turned to the books, how did that interact with how you read the scripts and prepared your characters?
Well, ultimately, eventually, we got right into Red Dragon. But for me, it was more about, before we started filming, figuring out the exact nature of Will's mind and how it worked, and specifically the trouble that he had connecting with people who aren't ultra-violent. And what that was, you know, when we talked about it at the beginning, I remember there was some suggestion that maybe Will is on the spectrum, right? Maybe he's But my understanding we're all on the spectrum, right? It's a spectrum. But my understanding, well, eventually, from Red Dragon, was that he's, in a sense, at the opposite end of the spectrum, that he's too porous, right? He's shut down because he receives too much information from people and is painful, as opposed to not being able to read them. And that all came from Thomas House.
What do you miss the most about your time on Hannibal?
Yes. say, I mean, we spend, you rarely as an actor get to spend 3 years with one character. We visit a film and we leave the film in 2 months, right? So this was just a journey that grew on all of us. We see each other once in a while, but I do miss the friendships and I miss the people around the whole thing. Luckily, we do still see each other, but we're far between. Also, these children who live over here for some reason. So yeah, that's one of the things. Yeah, maybe the most important thing. Yeah.
Before we go to our final question, we will be going to fan questions on the QR code thing soon on the Fan Hub, on the C2E2 Fan Hub. So the last question that I have for the two of you is, since we have the both of you and since this is a reunion, what was your favorite part about working with each other?
We have an answer, yeah. There wasn't one. No, it was, for me, it was those scenes, just because it's so rare. People don't write scenes that are deliberately meant to be played sat opposite each other with that kind of rich language. You know, in any other show or movie, you think, well, I'm going to have to get up out of this chair. I'm going to find a way to get out of this chair and move around because this is just going to be boring. But it wasn't that. It was this intense game of ping pong or whatever between the two of them. And you know, I can't think that I've ever got to do that in any other job. It's rare.
All of that, ditto. But one of the things that I really enjoyed, I also think was cleverly written, was after I can't remember, is that the end of the first season? I can't remember. Anyways, I have watched it. I have seen it. But you know that we used to see Vision, that we see Hannibal in jail with the famous mask and stuff. But I remember that scene where I walked down the alley of cells, and I come up to Will Graham, and I'm standing out there as a free man, and I say, "Hello, Will." Beautiful. And then we had like tons of scenes with the bars between us. This was super tricky to shoot, but it was just so fantastic to be out there. He was in there. Also because I knew I'm going to get him out eventually.
I love both of those answers. They're very sweet. So turning to fan questions now, I saw a great one flip by. Maz, you just reunited with Brian Fuller on a new project. What was that like?
Dust Bunny. It was as crazy and mental as it was doing this. Now I had him as a director, which we've never tried before. And well, I loved it. I love him. I think he's a brilliant man, but it was crazy. In a cool way. So I can't wait to see the film. And we have a little girl in the film who's absolutely fantastic. So soon it's coming out.
I saw a good one that asked, how was it difficult to work with a lot of dogs?
Yes. I mean, they were delightful, but they just don't do what they're told. You know? But it was really clear when we were figuring out, oh, that's who this guy is, right? That's that art of who this guy is. So I did not resent dogs, just to be clear.
Were they real?
Start a fake dog conspiracy. What question have you always wanted to be asked at a panel?
By anyone?
Yeah, by anyone.
Well, obviously, which I never understood why people don't never ask. Why are people not asking how much money are you making? I mean, I wouldn't like to usually ask that, but I've always wondered. Why? Nobody asked that question. Thank God. I don't know. Do you know the answer to that one?
To that question? No, I don't have a dream keen question that I'm waiting for, hoping against hope.
Well, I have a silly one to follow up, which is if Hannibal or Will took a trip to Chicago, would they get an Italian beef sandwich, deep dish pizza, or a Chicago-style hot dog? We're taking this very seriously here.
I gotta be honest here. All of those dishes seems rude. What do you think?
In that sense, should be eaten.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the above.
No, yeah, it's just, Hannibal does not eat food like that.
I guess the question is, which might he serve to an unsuspecting dinner party crowd? Right? This is a deep dish pizza.
I guess you can get away with the hot dog thing. Doesn't matter. Maybe that would be the choice.
Were there any alternative versions of a scene or an episode from any season that you filmed that you wish made it into the show?
Alternative scenes or no, in the first season, there was an episode, I'm going to be hazy on the details, but this was a classic Brian. We filmed the episode, he looked at it, and then he decided, oh wait, this episode should come like 5 episodes later. Remember that? And then we reshot quite a lot in order to reshape the story. And he was right. So I don't wish that we will see that episode because it wasn't as good.
Did working on the show, because it's fairly dark material, ever impact your daily life?
Do you mean in a traumatic sense?
Yeah.
No. I love working, and I love going home after work. Both are good.
Yeah, I completely agree. The whole idea is to step into the character and leave the character as fast as you can.
Money, right?
That doesn't mean that you can't be affected by a long day of a certain emotion, but it's rarely got something to do with the character itself. If you go down that path, you should probably find a different job. And also, in Hannibal's case, it's honestly, he's doing everything he loves, constantly. See, he's a very happy man. We're dealing with very dark materials, but he sees the world upside down. So he would come home with a little skip.
Did you have a toughest episode to film? Whether that was just the physicality of it, or just
The final episode of season 2 was pretty challenging. For obvious reasons, not to keep bringing it back to fake blood, but that's a part of it. We shot that final sequence all night. It was the very last scene that we shot in that season. So it was, I don't know, it's like 5 in the morning or something, and poor Casey just kept having a throat cut, and etc., etc. But it was, I think we knew where that pitch of that scene had to be, right? And it was more than just the acts that were taking place in it, which were pretty extreme already. So yeah, that was difficult and really brilliant.
I agree. It was the toughest one, but also the most beautiful one, I think. It was for everyone. Also because basically Hannibal is cleaning up, right? Just getting rid of everything, everyone. That is brutal, but it's also a new start, right? So there was some beauty in there as well.
favorite murder or tableau from the show?
Fungal Garden.
I like Cello Man.
I like killing Tobias. and poor Franklin.
Was there a prop you that he wanted to take home, or was there a prop he did take home?
You have to choose now.
I did not take a prop home. Max?
I ate it,
Well, that's true.
No, I didn't bring the dog home. No.
What was the process of embodying your characters and getting into that headspace? You said you have your work and then home, but how do you get into the work?
On a daily basis,
On a daily basis.
showing up and working with brilliant people, honestly, is the answer. And arriving and just being happy to be there. It's not, I mean, it's complicated, but it's not rocket science. It's just, it's a mutual enterprise.
And once you've been there with the character for a while, and you leave and you come back, the little helping hand is obviously, I show up often with Adidas, and then I go in and I come out of the trailer dressed like Hannibal. There's a big difference, and it wakes you up, and you kind of start going, yeah, time to eat someone.
Although I have wondered about what would it be like to return to these characters like after 10 years. That's something that's far from something I've ever done. Right? If that would have happened at some point in my it would be a just be a different will. I don't know, I've forgotten.
You can't be. Yeah. No, but I mean, to be honest, if it's going to happen, there will be a gap in time anyway. Yeah, the rights would have happened.
How early on in the show did you realize that it was going to be special?
That's a good question. I remember after we wrapped the first season, the night that we wrapped, being on the camera truck with a bunch of the crew, drinking a beer, and somebody saying to me, like, I really hope we get to come back and do this again. This is the gaffer. I said, I really hope we get to come back and do this again. I really think this is, he said, I think this is special. And he's not the kind of guy who was, going to say that if he didn't mean it. And I thought, oh yeah. Well, I had been feeling that, like, to myself, but when you hear it from somebody else, it's nowadays.
It's always very difficult to predict anything when you're in the midst of it. You can have a good feel, but it's not necessarily that it turns out like that. But I think after Brian showed us a couple of episodes, I had a really good feeling that this was special, that it looked special. His words were very different than anything else I've seen on TV. So for me, that was after he showed us the first couple.
Yeah, and I remember after specifically watching the second episode, which was, when we filmed it, it was much more centered around that specific crime. It was mushroom man. And remember, nothing against that, but when we watched it, Brian, he did this all the way through the filming of all 3 seasons. He would always have this second unit filming all the little grace notes that go in to make the show so beautiful, that we were not present for, right? I didn't think we realized what the visual of the show was going to be. And he had made these very interesting little tweaks, little cuts. He dubbed some lines, I forget exactly what. So that the central theme of that episode was still really about Will and Hannibal and Abigail. It kind of created this through story. And that's when I realized that, oh, right, this thing that I hoped we were doing is what we're doing. So I take back my first answer, forget that.
Did you have a favorite guest on the show?
That's a little loaded.
If we mention one, everybody else is going to hate us who was on that show. I never personally met Lance Henriksen. He is one of my favorite actors, so I was so pleased to see him in one of the episodes. But I never got to meet him.
Yeah, I know, I'll go for that too. He was amazing.
Do you have a favorite line or catchphrase from your characters on the show?
It's hard to, I don't think this is particularly in line with Will's regular kind of phrases, but is your social worker in that course? Maybe shouldn't have
It is a great line.
It is a great line.
And I think even Hannibal got surprised when you said it. My friend was got a sense of humor. Yeah, that's a great one. I think maybe a catchphrase, which would be my own as well, when Hannibal says, "Nothing here is vegetarian."
If you weren't playing your own characters, which other characters would you want to play?
Oh.
Children. It's just amazing what he goes through and survives. He's like a Godzilla you can't kill.
I saw a fan question asking if you've enjoyed your time at Chicago so far.
Well, I got in last night and got drunk with Matt, so it was... I don't know if I can specifically thank Chicago for that experience. Maybe I wasn't alone in that, I don't know.
So, this is how drunk he was because I came in this morning. I wasn't there. I have that guy. Haven't seen much of Chicago, but what I see here, I really like.
It's shameless. Love your deep dish.
What were your favorite outfits that you wore during the show?
You're wearing the same
I just well, there was that plaid shirt. I did get, when we went to Italy, I kind of suddenly got a nice suit. And then I got shot.
Yeah, I mean, the kill suit I kind of like, but it was a pain in the ass because it was so warm. You know, the plastic suit. And I don't know, he went away from that one. I thought it was going to be like a returning thing. He's so smart, he always uses it. Brian didn't like it, so all of a sudden there was just fingerprints everywhere. But my favorite suit was the gray and red.
I think I'm right saying that Brian had that same suit made for himself.
Yes, it's huge, yeah. And a funny story, if I may add. I took it home. I just stole it when we were done. And then Brian called me and said, "I really want to give you a present. I want to give you that red suit, but I can't find it." Brian, I already got it.
That is definitely one way to get caught.
I'm a lousy criminal.
Was there a detail that you introduced to your characters that you're particularly proud of?
I mean, I don't know that I feel responsible for all the details. I think it was there. It wasn't like, what would be great, Brian, would be if he has trouble making eye contact. That was baked in. There from the go. No. I credit Brian, basically.
Low-hanging fruit there.
Says that I love Chicago, guys.
That was one thing I ended up being proud of, but it didn't make sense in the beginning at all. I just wanted to be a little interesting at the dinner table, you know, when you sniff the wine. We've seen that a billion times, people sniffing wine. And for some odd reason, I did this, and well, now I can explain why, but I did this. And it was just to be interesting, to be honest. But then I realized, this is clever. His sense of smell is so refined. It's too much right here. So it turned out to be smart. It started out just me trying to be interesting.
You know, in restaurants when there's somebody pours you a wine and then it kind of leaves you to sniff it and you don't really know what to do. I have a friend who used to take the wine, look at it, sniff it, listen to it. Just to kind of observe the waiters of amusement. Does this guy know a lot more about wine?
Now you can go home and do the same thing to the fancy. What dish is permanently associated with Hannibal for you when you see it on the menu?
Be more specific. It is, well, I think the answer, for some reason, because it's so decadent. I mean, the way that you actually prepare these birds, it's a crazy story. I'm not going to bore you with it, but it's a very brutal and not a super heartwarming story how you treat these birds. But those birds is essentially the show in many ways.
Yeah, and I think is it about the only time that Hannibal serves a meal that isn't people, or might not be people. Usually there's a...
Sasu.
The lighting in the scenes of the show are so moody and kind of dark. Was it filmed like that, or was that added later?
No, it was filmed like that. We could barely see each other. That was Jim Hawkinson, the DP, who's pretty brilliant, and also a complete oddball. I say that with all the love. He would spend a lot. I mean, the TV show, they move fairly fast, right? You don't get to spend all day shooting a scene, but I think more than any other TV show I've ever worked on, it took so much time to take lights away. Just more and more specific. Brilliant.
Why did Will only sometimes wear his glasses?
Why did he only sometimes wear his glasses? I don't think he has bad eyesight. I think he just wears them as a shield.
What was your biggest takeaway from working on the show?
The answer is the suit. This was probably, in this kind of long form, again, like showing up playing the same character for 3 years. I hadn't done that before, and I had certainly not done it in a way that would keep growing and building people talk about, it's so wonderful collaborating. It really was a collaboration, particularly between the three of us, Brian, myself, and Brian. So what I took away was just that it's incredible to work like that, and maybe rare.
Yeah, I agree. And then I think also we had a rare opportunity in the sense that we had the character of Abigail. So in general, we always just look at each other and we just grow a little older. But she was growing up while we were shooting it. It was wonderful to see how that changed her performance, and Brian also changed her character because of that.
For both of you, if you had to karaoke for your life, what song would you sing?
Does that mean for the rest of your life, or to
No, I think to avoid being killed.
I think in that second, I'm probably dead.
You sing an Ellen Jensen.
It's true. Nobody killed me. Have you sung? Have you sung?
Have I sung?
Have sung on film?
Actually, that's a secret for now. Something is waiting for all of us out there. Was that? No, it's not last night. No, but I'm not. I don't think I would put that on my CD as a big thing. I mean, just talking about. Are you asking us a favorite song that we want to replay constantly?
Karaoke to
Let's move on. Karaoke is a different thing. You have to sing Meatloaf.
Yeah.
So I'll do Bad Out of Hell now.
if you had to choose any scene to convince someone to watch Hannibal the show, which scene would you choose?
I would pick 3 scenes, which are the 3 scenes in this. I keep coming back to the second episode. I guess I love that mushroom. But the 3 scenes that we have together in the second episode, which begin with me up on the balcony, end with me, and conclude with the 2 of us for the first time sitting down opposite each other. That's kind of the heart of the show.
I'll just show them the last episode of season 2. And then obviously
Their minds.
and then I have to kill them afterward. But no, I think it's a surprisingly powerful episode.
Wonderful answers both. I had such a lovely time. I assume you all did too.